Hey guys, how you doing? Happy Homebrew Wednesday. Here we go. This week I decided to go back a few months and answer some more of those questions that I asked you guys to put in the comments for a question and answer thing. And I only got 20 of them done, and that was a while ago, a couple months ago or something like that. So I figured this week I would go back and answer some more. So I took the next 20 of those questions, and I've got them here. There's actually 21, but one doesn't count, and you'll find out why. So without further ado, because this could be a long video, and I apologize for that, you're welcome to watch it in 2 parts, or just don't watch all of it. I don't know. But I got to get through these, and I don't want to make quick answers, okay? So I'm drinking some, I got some nice piss water here. Unfortunately, I don't have any homebrew beer today. I've got some in the fermenter over there. It's got to be kegged. I didn't get time to do it because, well, I just been busy and I got to do this. So piss water reminds you how good your homebrew actually is. Not that you should need a reminder, but it's just saying. Cheers. Okay, that's all I've got for today. So, all right, let's get right to this. All right, here we go. Question number one, Jay Brony 544 asks, which do you think is better or easier, siphoning or using a fermenter with a spigot? I don't think it really matters. I think that they're both equally as convenient. I use an auto siphon. I actually just bought a brand new one, actually. And because my other ones, you got to replace these plastic things once in a while. And so that's what I use. But my fermenters don't have spigots on them anyways anymore. My new fermenters don't have spigots. I do have a bottling bucket that if I needed it, it has a spigot on it. And then I could bottle from the spigot. But I wouldn't have a problem bottling with the idle siphon either. So whatever works for you. You've got to sanitize the spigot. You've got to sanitize the auto siphon. And it's really, 6 of 1.5 dozen, 6, what's that saying? 6 half dozen. Anyway, you know what I mean. 6 of 1.5 dozen of the other, doesn't matter. Okay. Boy, there's a blooper right there. I'm not even going to cut that out. AV Promos asks, can you talk about how long stuff keeps, like shelf life of grains, hops, bottled beer and kegs? I could probably talk about that until, tomorrow. It's really hard to tell. Grains, you can usually keep them, if they're not already milled, they last a year, maybe a year and a half, 2 years. I've had some two-row over here that are going on 2 years old. And I've done, I've brewed with them recently, and they're still fine. But they're stored down here in the basement where it's a little cooler. Keep them in the fridge, keep them bagged up or whatever. And I wouldn't go any longer than 2 years. And that's probably pushing it. I've heard a year and a half. So, gives you an idea. With hops, well, they slowly lose their flavor and aroma over time, constantly. They're slowly losing it, just like any herb does. Like hops are basically just like herbs that you cook with, like oregano and basil and thyme. They slowly lose their flavors. So use them as soon as you can. Put them in the freezer. Seal them in a bag. Go to the thrift store and pick up one of those bag sealers. They've always got them. They're like $5 and get some Ziploc bags and just don't use the Ziploc part. Put those bags in the bag sealer and suck out all the air and seal your hops in there. Try to do them in portions that you're going to use so you don't have to reseal them, 6 months a year maybe for hops. And again, use them as quickly as you can. Bottled beer, no idea. Depends on how good your sanitation. I'm sorry, I've got an itchy nose today. Depends on how good your sanitation is. Could last a year, couple years, maybe 6 months. It all depends. Same with kegs. Okay? Keep them in the fridge if you're going to keep them that long. That way, not as much is going to happen to them if there's any fermentation that starts to occur from some sort of infection or whatever. It might not happen as quickly if it's cold. Okay? Hope that helps. Very foggy answer there. I'm sorry, it's hard to say. Luke Millward asks, how do I create a better head on my bottled beer? From stouts to olders, ciders to lagers. This would be a great one. Well, ciders, you're not going to get head retention on a cider. There's not enough protein and stuff like that. You're going to get, it's like champagne, and you're not going to get a head on cider. But for your bottled beer, this is a long. This could go on for a while, and I don't want to make this too long. But use more malt in your beer. It depends on what you see. If I don't know what you're using, I can't tell you. If you're not getting enough head retention in your beer, then I need to know what your recipes are. Use maltodextrin if you can find it. 250 grams of that in your batch. Put that in. That can help. Maybe some honey. More malt, less sugars, less dextrose, and more malt sugars than regular sugar. Try to brew with as much malt and things like that as possible. Cut back on your simple sugars, like the ones that you get from your kitchen cupboard. Don't use as many of those, okay? It all depends on how you pour your beer, and try to use an appropriate glass for your beer. The shape of the glass has a big impact on how it pours. Don't wash I don't think you should wash your glasses in dish soap. I think you should use something like I use OxyClean to wash my glasses, and I never have a problem. In fact, sometimes I have too much head on my beers. It doesn't leave anything behind, this stuff, so it's good, and it cuts the grease, and make sure there's no oils or grease in your glasses. Make sure they're clean. Full boiling. Okay, have you ever full boiled an extract? I'm looking to do that on my next kit, but I seem to get conflicting answers on how to actually do it. If you have, what's the best way to approach it in your opinion? Okay, he's looked at different forums and he's getting all different conflicting answers. Okay. This video will be long, guys. I'm sorry. I got 20 questions here, and I'm going to try and get through them. I'm not going to shorten them out. Don't boil the beer kits. The ones that are pre-hopped, don't boil those. Okay? There's so many different techniques to this. If you want to add a beer kit to a recipe, put it in near the end. Okay? You've got to have malt. You've got to have wort for your hops to boil in if you're going to add hops. So you're doing a 1 hour boil. Okay? What size pot do you have? Do you have a big, huge pot where you can boil the entire batch of beer in that one pot? Put all the malt extract in at the beginning and just boil it like you would do an all-grain beer. Add the hops the way you would normally add the hops. And that's the end of that. It's fine. You're not going to ruin your malt extract if you're boiling in 6 gallons of water. If it's just regular unhopped extract. You're fine. Okay? It's just like it's almost like you just did a mash. And you've got your 7 gallons of wort. It's the same. Okay? Now, if you're doing it in a smaller pot, like a 3.5, 4 gallon boil, then what you want to do is cut back on don't put all the extract in at first. So let's say you're doing you're doing a 3 gallon boil, okay? Instead of a 5. So instead of starting with 6 gallons of water, you're starting with 3 gallons of water, okay? That's half, right? Put half of the extract in at the beginning. Try to keep the gravity the same. Don't concentrate your wort and boil it, because you're going to caramelize it, and your hops aren't going to work as nicely. Okay, so proportionize your water to your extract, and do the boil, and add your hops the way you normally would, and then about 10 minutes before the end of the boil, add the rest of the extract. Okay? And bring it back to a boil. And then do your whatever hop addition you've got left if you have one left. You could even boil some water on the side and top it up with boiling water and the extract that you're going to add at the end. And that'll bring everything up, and it'll still, at least you got your hop utilization in there, your bittering hop utilization, and then you're going to add your finishing hops or whatever. That's the way I do it, okay? Don't concentrate your wort, because then you won't get as much hop utilization. I think I need another shot of this. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I don't want to repeat myself here. I want to go forward here. Flying Man 1981 says, "Hello, Craig. I haven't read these yet. I have not read these. I just dumped them in here, and I'm just, going, just going to answer all of them, no matter whether I know the answers or not. I'll just do my best here. I have a question for you regarding my regulator for dispensing my brew. I use about 2 to 3 psi, pounds per square inch. But overnight, when I leave it at that pressure in the morning, my regulator shows 10 to 12 psi. That's normal. It happens to me too. So you don't have a problem with your regulator. Is this normal? I got a lot of. So is this normal, or is my regulator broken? No, your regulator is not broken. Also, I get a lot of foam, but I don't have a kegerator yet, so I guess that room temperature could be the problem. Absolutely. Absolutely. You nailed it on the head right there. Your CO2 is leaking out of your beer and pressurizing your regulator. Okay? So that's what I think. He says, what do you think? That's what's happening. You need to refrigerate. You're getting a lot of foam because you're serving your beer at a warm temperature, and your beer is. You ever buy a bottle of pop, right, of soda, and it's warm, and you pour it, and it foams all over the place. But when it's cold, it doesn't foam as much. CO2 will stay in solution at colder temperatures a lot better than it will at warm. And back to the previous question about head. Don't chill your beer down as much if you're getting no head when you pour your beer. That can help too. But head and head retention are two different things. You might get a nice head when you pour your beer, but in 2 minutes it's gone. So that's a whole other story, and follow the procedures I told you about that to get better head retention. So even good store-bought quality craft beers sometimes don't have good head retention. So don't stress about it too much. If you get good head retention, then you're doing good. You're lucky. So yeah, but 2 or 3 pounds. The reason why you're serving at 2 or 3 psi is because you're serving it warm, and you're getting your CO2 is escaping from your beer, and it's going up the hose into your regulator and causing the pressure to increase there. So, refrigeration. You get yourself a $100 freezer. Go online, find a temperature. I know it seems like a pain in the ass, but a thermostat where you put the probe inside your freezer and you control it. You plug your freezer into the thermostat and you control the temperature with that. And it works like a gem. I didn't want to do it, but I did. And I just love my setup. It works great. I don't care if it's got handles on it or anything like that. I open my freezer, I pour my beer, slam down the lid. I'm good. You don't have to do any fancy stuff unless you want to. Okay, so that's your there. This is a long one. This next one here. Okay, I'm gonna try and get through this the best I can. Here we go. It's from Jamie Thacker. Hey Craig, love your videos. Thank you. I'm a new home brewer. I'm on my 3rd batch currently in the fermenter. Good. Well, back then, by now I'm sure he's drank it. And this is probably question is not relevant anymore for him, but it's good for other people to learn. If I know the answer, that is. So I have started tasting my first batch. Can you describe what flavors I might get from a hot fermentation? 75 Fahrenheit or so from a US 05 yeast. We had a bit of a heat wave here Okay, South Friday, just trying to finished product. They weren't there when I bottled, but they're there afterwards. Okay, any chance aging the beer will help dissipate flavors? If it matters, it was a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale Cologne, DME Crystal 60, plenty of hops. Flavor is sweet, almost caramel. Well, the Crystal will do that. Crystal 60 will give you a caramel flavor. I'm certain fermental. Okay, so okay, well, yeah, yeast doesn't like warmer temperatures like that, especially one of those U.S. Varieties. If it was a Cooper's yeast or something like that, those things can handle almost anything. But you're still gonna get a consequence if you brew at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. But yeah, you're gonna get. It's been described as a cardboard flavor. It's been described as a twang, and I've tasted that. But it's really hard to describe if it doesn't taste right, or if it tastes kind of appley, maybe like a little cidery. That's what you'll get at high temperatures. The heat wave thing, that's unfortunate. Yeah, that happens to all of us. And I'm lucky I live somewhere where I've got air conditioning in the summer, and in the winter it's fairly chilly down here in the basement. So I'm good, and I can use heat belts if I need to. And if I don't need to, I got nice cool temperatures down here. So I'm all good. Yeah, it happens. I don't know what else to tell you about that. If you think that it's causing a problem, then you're going to have to use some technique to get it cooler. Like, there's lots of methods around that you can use ice bottles and ice water and, put it and wrap a towel around it, a wet towel around it, or a t-shirt or a sweater, and blow a fan that will evaporate the water and cool the wort. You have to keep changing a couple times a day. Or find a yeast that will work at a higher temperature. Okay. Okay. Next, this is K Yellow Iga. I'm sorry if I pronounce these wrong. K Yellow Iga. Or KY Alwiga, I don't know. Can you show your all-grain setup? Mash tun, hot liquor tank, sparge, kettle. I know you prefer doing the partial mashes, so do I, but I'm looking to build an affordable all-grain setup, and I would like your opinion. Thanks. Hope I don't break something here. Oop, see? Something was on top of that. I don't know what it was. Well, this is my mash tun. Okay, it's a fairly basic thing. This was sent to me by a guy called Ottawa Tom. And, he made it, and then he traded it in for another one, so he sent it to me. But you can make these, and there's lots of videos on YouTube how to make them. And that's all you need is that. And a very basic thing to do if you've got a couple of, copper pipes and some elbow fittings and a hacksaw. There's lots of videos on YouTube how to do that. I'm just curious what fell over there. I'm going to be looking for something later, and I'll be like, oh, that's what it was. What the hell? Anyway, okay, doesn't matter. All right, so listen, if you want to see my all grain setup, just go on YouTube and type in CraigTube all grain. I'm sure that my all grain video will come up. My very first all grain video will come up. I use 2 pots on the stove. I find it works beautifully. My first all grain beer I ever did was done that way, and it was fantastic. I really was impressed with the flavor. I didn't think it was going to turn out as good as it did. And it was a very simple recipe. So go look for that video, and you'll see how I do it on the stove in 2 pots. It's dead easy. Okay? All right, here we go. Andy's pet. Andy's pet. I need a breather here. He says, I've just used Star San for the first time. I only use a gallon at a time. So he makes a whole gallon of Star San. Yeah, so do I. That's what I do. It's cloudy as all hell, but I test it with these strips, and if it's a pH 2.0 or lower, I'm good to go. Doesn't matter if it's cloudy, as far as I'm concerned. If its pH is right, it's doing its job. And anyone who has a comment on that is welcome to comment on it. But this debate's been going on for years, and I'm just decided to test it. And if it's good on the strip, I'm using it. Now, if I'm making a really important batch of beer, like say the SJ Pour one, I will make a fresh batch of Star San. I will do everything on that beer to make sure that nothing can possibly go wrong. And hopefully it won't. Nothing will go wrong, I hope. He says, what happens if you use too much in a gallon batch of water? Would this affect your brew? He's pretty sure he used the correct measurements, but he'd like for future reference. Yeah, it's important. It's important that you keep... The instructions are on the... God, I'm running out. Well, actually, somebody's sending me. So actually, I've got... that's Star San. That's Sandy Clean there. And but I've got Star San back there too. Anyways, why am I fiddling with that? I'll just tell you. No, keep it as close as you can, because it only works at a certain pH range. So making a stronger Star San solution might actually make it less effective. Okay, this is what I've listened to with the makers of Star San. So try to get your jug and make sure you know exactly where a gallon is. I used to have a little mark on mine. It's gone, but I know exactly where the level should be. Do your 1/4 ounce per gallon, and as close as you can. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, but don't double it or anything like that. Okay, or don't 1.5 it, because you might actually reduce the effectiveness of it if you do that. Okay, so that's what they say from Star San. Harry Brew 69 says, "Hi Craig, love the channel. What were the last 5 Homebrew Wednesday videos you watched? Question mark. He's like, what were the last ones you watched? Cheers, much love, Harry. Actually, I haven't watched any this week. Last week I watched a bunch. I kind of go randomly every week. Obviously, we can't watch all of them. And especially when I hog the damn things with my 30-minute Homebrew Wednesdays, because I'm doing this. But it's very random with me. Obviously, SJ Pour invented the thing, so I often watch his. His aren't very long, so it's easy to squeeze that in on an evening. But I really can't remember. I'm sorry. But I like to watch what other people are doing in their Homebrew Wednesday videos, so that I can keep in line with sort of what they're doing and what they're saying, so that we all as a community sort of stay on the same format. So yes, I do watch other ones, but it varies from week to week. Chuck Brookman says, "Hi Craig, do you plan to ever try doing no-chill brewing?" Probably not. I think what he means is don't chill your wort with a chiller. Let it cool on its own, and then put your yeast in. No, I probably don't. I am not a proponent of it. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm not... I have 2 wort chillers. I have one really awesome wort chiller, which I can't show you because if I do, I'll have to pull it all down and everything. But it's from... I'm going to put the website at the bottom of the screen where I got this from, and I would highly recommend that you go to the website and check them out, because these are custom made, and they're amazing designs. The guys who make these they're engineers, and so they know all the lengths and thicknesses of tubing. They've done all the tests and efficiency, things and all that. And so with those kinds of tools, I don't think it's necessary for you to let your wort chill on its own. My wort chiller is a very efficient one. It doesn't use a lot of water, and it chills the wort in about 5 minutes. Well, 10 maybe. I won't exaggerate. Okay? So, Natch Parade says, what is a good way to filter the wort after an all-grain brew without using a pipe filter? What's a pipe filter? I've never seen one of them. Filter what? Whirlfloc tablets, Irish moss. Pour it through a sieve, a strainer, if you're looking at filtering out a bunch of hop debris. But other than that, I wouldn't worry about filtering it. It's gonna fall out after it's done fermenting anyway. Just if you're worried about your hop debris, then use a fine strainer, and just avoid the very bottom of the pot where all the nasty stuff is when you're pouring it into your fermenter. Cheers. Howard 482. Hey Craig, I love all the vids you put out. Thank you, sir. Question: what is a good all-grain brew to do for a first all-grain batch? Just looking for one to get my feet wet. Once again, my first all-grain beer was a very simple one. I think there was only 2 grains in it, maybe 3, I'm not sure, and 2 hop additions. So, look up CraigTube all grain on YouTube, and I'm sure you'll find the video. And watch that, and you'll see how I did it. It was easy. I was a little nervous because I was filming it, but other than that, it went without a hitch. And the beer was it was really good. You can even watch the tasting of it as well. Oh, also, do a search on YouTube or on forums or something, or on Google for good all grain batch to start with. And you'll find a lot of information on that. I answered this question in our forum, 17brewcrew.com, and I actually just Googled it, and I found a really safe recipe, a really easy one. So that's a good. Don't worry about it. It's going to work, okay? There's just a few things you got to sort of be a little careful, like temperature-wise. Chase Vaughan says, do you have any future hopes for your channel and Friday Cast? Is there anything about them you'd like to see grow and evolve, or is it all chugging along pretty much the way you hoped it always will? Yes, I would like a secretary. I need a secretary. I'm actually in contact with YouTube. I have some consultation going on to try and see if there's anything I can do to improve my channel, or get more viewers or whatever. Not that I need any more, but as far as the broadcast goes, I do that. It's just a thing I do for enjoyment. I'd like to play different music. I'd like to play some more modern music if I could. I'm really in the middle right now of trying to find some good modern music, and it is out there. I've been known in the past to say, today's music sucks. Well, some of it does and some of it doesn't. Some of it's actually really good. My wife actually is as good at finding good music that is modern. So I would like to start playing a little bit more modern music. Other than that, no, I think I'm just going to keep on doing what I do, and it'll just go the way it goes. I don't think I'm going to change anything too drastically, unless it requires changing, and then I'll change it. James Perry says, how does yeast impact the flavor of beer? Oh. Chemistry 101, time for that, right? I mostly use dry yeast. Okay, that's fine. There's been a couple of very world-renowned home brewers, one in particular, I won't mention the name, who's quoted as saying, if you use dry yeast, you don't know what you're doing. It's bullshit. I don't know why somebody would say that. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I mean, we all make good beer with dry yeast. You can rehydrate it. You can even make a starter out of it if you want. Okay? I mostly use dry yeast, USO5, a good general yeast for most beers. Or should you go fancy, aka West Coast ale yeast or such? Well, again, I don't have as much experience as the dude who said that if you're using dry yeast, you don't know what you're doing. I think it was probably something he probably shouldn't have said. But it also might just be an opinion. But I don't know what it would be based on, because I've used both and I haven't really seen a huge difference in, not that I've done side by side brews with, wet yeast and dry yeast, or, but it does impact the flavor and the type of yeast you use. I can't answer this question really, because it's such a, I'd have to sit and think about it. Yes, yeast has a huge impact on your beer, but whether you use dry yeast or liquid yeast tends to have a lower yeast count, cell count, than dry yeast does, and you have to, usually, I'm told, you're supposed to make a starter out of that. So I mean, then you're risking little things like maybe an infection or something, or this is my opinion, and the guy who said that you shouldn't use dry yeast has his. I have mine. I've been brewing for a long time too, although I'm probably not as experienced and don't know as much as he does. I think you're fine with dry yeast, and you're even finer with it if you rehydrate it. But I sprinkle dry yeast on my beer all the time, and I make good beer. So I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes people have to do their own experiments, but I wouldn't worry about it. If you can afford a $12 thing of liquid yeast, and that's what you need to do to make yourself, think you're getting the best yeast, then buy it. I mean, there's lots of people who swear by those. Personally, I don't want to pay $12 for a thing of yeast. I'd rather put more malt or grains into my beer, or more hops into my beer, and spend the money on that than a thing of yeast. But if money's no object, you use the most expensive yeast you can find. You know what I mean? That's my answer. Let's move on. The Loa Carver. Where do these people get these names? I'd like to know this stuff. Hi, Craig. We keep our house cool, and the basement is very cool. I know you use a brew belt, but how about covering different ways to keep your brews warm while fermenting? Thanks. Corey / Loa Carver. Okay, Corey. Brew belt. If you're looking at raising the temperature of your brew for whatever reason, a brew belt is good. Heating pad. Those things you put on your back when you're got a sore back. A heating pad works. Strap it around there. Tie it around with a string. That works. You could those are the two ways I can think. I mean, Christmas lights, but you know what? You can't buy incandescent Christmas lights very much anymore. They're all the LED ones now. So the LED ones don't generate any heat. And I'd be a little bit worried about the light getting into the beer from the Christmas lights. Wrap it in a towel, put a shirt over it. That'll keep the heat in, because it does create its own heat when it ferments. I can't think of any other way. Oh, you could build a big box. A big box with a light bulb in it. And then, the temperature control thing. And then the light bulb will turn on and off at a certain temperature. You could do that as well. Those are the only three things I can think of right now. Numme11 says, "Hey Craig, thanks for your videos." You're welcome, sir. How much of a difference do you notice in flavor quality when doing a partial mash brew over extract and steeping grain brews, or extract only? Okay. I've been brewing for a year and I want to give a partial mash a try. Okay, so he's talking about just steeping specialty grains like Crystal or chocolate malt or something like that. The ones that give you mostly the flavor, but they don't actually produce any or very much sugars. You're just getting flavor out of them. And then using liquid malt extract for the entire fermentable part of the beer. That versus adding some two-row or some fermentable grains and doing a mash, which is slightly different than a steeping, because you're looking at different temperature and a certain density of the mash. It's got to be a nice thick mash. I haven't noticed like a tremendous difference in the two, but there has to be, because I haven't done any really side by side. Same batch of beer, except this one I used, did a mash, and this one I didn't. I just added the, the crystal malt or something like that to it. But it's got to be better. I mean, it's fresh, But when I've done the mini mash, the beer that came out wasn't like leaps and bounds better than just using all extract. Okay? Just like all grain beer is not necessarily, although some may argue, not necessarily leaps and bounds better than extract beer as long as you get good fresh extract. Ask John Palmer, he'll tell you. Ooh, got a little bubble out of my fermenter there, hear that? You should be stopping by now. Okay, next, Johnny's Homebrew Adventure says, have you ever made your own Belgian candy sugar or syrup? And is there any difference between the two flavor-wise? No, I have not. And I wouldn't know how to do it, so I can't really answer that question. I'm sorry. Thank you, though. Here's the question that doesn't count, because it's already been answered, and we already know the answer to this. But I threw it in here so that you guys knew that he asked this. S.J. Poor said, because don't forget, this was back in January. He said, what would you like to see for the next S.J. Poor experiment or challenge? And are there brewers in Canada that would like to be involved? Well, the decision has already been made about what we're doing with the challenge, and it's brew your best beer. And I think that's a fantastic idea, because I think one year it was like using different yeasts or something, or and I don't have access to a lot of yeasts. I have to order them, and it's a pain in the butt. And I probably I didn't bother getting into it for that. But this time, brew your best beer, and it's opened, and I'm glad they did that, and that's what I'm going to do. And yes, I'm interested in getting into it. As a matter of fact, I'm in it. So, good luck to me. I haven't brewed the beer yet. Oh my God, I should have done it weeks ago. It's okay. It's okay. It'll be done in time. I don't have any bottles. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't bottle beer, so I don't have. I'm going to have to see if I can source out some bottles. Okay, Rappy90 says, have you ever thought of entering a homebrew recipe in a contest? That kind of fits in with the last question, doesn't it? But no, before this, no. And I don't consider the S.J. Poor thing a contest, really. It's fun. It's a challenge. I'm not going to win the thing. There's people out there that are going to be, absolutely brewing these amazing, ridiculous beers. And mine isn't going to be one of them. It's just going to be a good one that I know I can do well. And it's one of my favorites. And that's what mine is. But contests, no, I don't do them. For one thing, I don't drive. So I can't be driving or expect my wife to be driving me around and carting beers around and, doing that. I brew, mostly out of necessity, because I love beer, but I can't afford the prices where we live. So I brew beer because, it's cheaper. I'm not interested in competing. I know that I've made plenty of beer that's competition worthy, and I could have won some stuff, but I don't. For me, it's not necessary. And that's just me. I mean, some people, it's fun. It's a sport. It's kind of like a sport, really, for some people, and that's fine, and that's perfectly beautiful, and for them, that's good. That's good. What's right for them. But not everybody is in it for that. And it's not like I'm afraid to do it. I don't have a need, and I don't have a way of getting there and stuff. It's maybe if I could drive, I would do it for fun, but I can't. So it doesn't work out for me that way. I got to get myself another beer. I know this is long, but I'm sorry. It's the way we got to do it. Ninja Joku. Ninja Jaku. I need some of you guys to generate passwords for me. I swear to God. Some of these names, I don't know how you get them. Hi, Craig. I'm interested in making a beer with citrus flavor. Do I add juice or pulp to the wort? I'd love to hear your suggestions. I would do like the zest off of a lemon or an orange, or both. I don't know how much though, because I've never done it. But I would add the zest, because that's like adding a herb or a spice to your beer. Get about like 10 oranges and just get like a grater and just take the zest, not the white part, but just the outer orange part or the yellow part off, and put it in a little, thing. I don't know. You could probably stick it, if you boiled it in the wort. I think that would work. Or you could make a separate little tea with it, and then just add that to the your fermenter. I know people probably do add citrus juices or something to their beers, but I'm afraid to, because I'm afraid that the citric acid is going to kill my yeast. So I haven't got to that point yet where I've tried it. But I would do that, the zesting thing. The other thing you can do is quite simply buy yourself some lime or some lemons and squeeze them into your beer. That's what we do with Mexican cerveza beers. Squeeze it in and then drop in the thing. You're going to lose a little bit of head retention because there's oils there that are going to ruin your foam. But that's another way to do it as well, and it'll retain the sweetness that way. And there's one more question, because that's a good thing, because I'm running out of time, probably way over, and I need another beer. Steve Goodwin, last but not least, says, Craig, I need your opinion on transferring wort to the fermenter. I see some not stirring the wort and siphoning it into the bucket after wort is done, and some stirring the wort with the chiller and dumping it all into the fermenter bucket. Everyone's got their own methods of doing certain things. I'm the guy who stirs it with the wort chiller, just because wort chillers work way, way better when you move them around while they're chilling. It's a scientific fact that you're accessing all of the wort. You're not just cooling the part that's just right next to the wort chiller. You're actually, water will cool much faster when you stir it, because you're exposing it to the cool air above, and not just the top part of the water is being exposed, because that'll cool off and then the rest of it will stay warm, right? But when you stir it, it's going to all get exposed to the cool air, and it'll get cooled a lot faster. So with the wort chiller, you got to move it around. If you don't move it around, you're going to extend your wort chilling time. And if you're worried about stirring up stuff off the bottom of your pot, because I know some people do that whirlpool thing, and they, I think that most of the stuff's going to drop down to the bottom of your fermenter anyway, but I'm kind of, I'm a little vague on this one. Pour your wort through a sieve if you're worried about, stirring it up. Anyway, well, listen, my method is I move my wort chiller around, and that cools it a lot quicker. I'd rather do that than let it sit there and cool over a longer period of time and, risk having some sort of an infection there. So some do it one way, some do it another. My suggestion to you is to try both and see which one works better for you. Okay? That's how we all figure out this stuff, and that's a hard one to answer. Guys, I'm going to go. I'm going to get myself a beer quickly. Just hang on a sec. Okay. Okay. So that's it for this week. I'm sorry it was long, but I had to get through those 20 questions. God, talk about 20 questions. But there was actually 21. And that's it. I'm out. I'm not going to say anything else. You'll see on Friday on my broadcast. I'm there on Friday night. I wasn't there last week, but I will be there this week. And I'll see you there if you're willing to join. Great. It's, what is it? Vaughn Live. I was about to say Justin TV. I used to broadcast on Justin TV. VaughnLive.tv/CraigTube. And I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. More videos are coming up. I'm working on it. Cheers, 17. Bye-bye.